The fluorescent lights of the 52nd floor boardroom buzzed like angry hornets as Victoria Harrington's voice sliced through the air. "You're fired, Emilio. And don't think for a second you'll ever work in this city again." Her words hit me like a freight train, but it was the smirk curling her perfectly glossed lips that shattered something deep inside. Because I knew, in that gut-wrenching instant, she'd just buried the knife she'd been sharpening for months. I stood there, my hands trembling on the edge of the conference table, staring at the man I loved across the room, his eyes pleading for me to fight, even as the world I'd clawed my way into crumbled beneath my feet. New York had always been a beast, ruthless, glittering, devouring the weak without a second glance. I'd arrived 7 years earlier, a wide-eyed kid from the Bronx with a community college degree and dreams bigger than the skyline. Emilio Rivera, 25 and hungry, landing a gig as executive assistant to Harlan Harrington, the iron-fisted CEO of Harrington Dynamics, a tech empire that powered half the Fortune 500 supply chains. It paid the bills, sure, but more than that, it was my ticket out of the projects. A chance to prove I belonged in the glass towers where men like me were supposed to fetch coffee, not sip it. Harlan was a force, silver-haired, broad-shouldered, the kind of old-money wasp who'd built his fortune on mergers and cutthroat deals. But it was his kids who turned my world upside down. Victoria, the golden child, 22 and fresh from Yale, with her trust fund and her daddy's blind spot. And Leonardo, the quiet storm, 26, Harvard law dropout turned reluctant heir, with olive skin, tousled black hair that fell just so, and eyes like smoldering embers that saw right through the corporate facade. Leo, as I came to call him in stolen whispers, was the son who didn't fit the mold. Too artistic, too defiant, sketching blueprints for sustainable tech in the margins of board reports instead of chasing stock ticks. I didn't plan on falling for him. God, no. It started innocently enough. Late nights in the office, poring over spreadsheets while the city hummed below us. He'd bring takeout from that hole-in-the-wall taqueria in Hell's Kitchen, claiming it was research for a diversity initiative. We'd laugh about Harlan's golf buddies, trade stories about immigrant parents who'd sacrificed everything. Mine were Puerto Rican steelworkers who'd died too young. His mother, an Italian painter who'd fled Milan for Greenwich Village, leaving him with a sketchbook full of unfinished dreams and a father who saw emotion as a liability. One rain-lashed evening, 3 months into those midnight marathons, he leaned across the desk, his fingers brushing mine as he passed a revised proposal. The air crackled. "Emilio," he murmured, voice low like aged whiskey. "You ever feel like you're drowning in all this?" I met his gaze, heart pounding, and whispered back, "Every damn day. But with you, feels like I can breathe." That was it, the spark that ignited everything. Our first kiss happened in the supply closet, frantic and feverish, his hands framing my face like I was something precious. From there, it bloomed in shadows. Stolen weekends in his Soho loft, walks along the High Line at dawn, where he'd trace the scars on my knuckles from street fights back home and call them battle wounds of a warrior. Leo made me believe in more. He was out to his family, tentatively after a blowout with Harlan that nearly cost him his inheritance. But with me, he was unapologetically himself. No hiding, no shame. We'd talk for hours about building something real. Him revolutionizing Harrington Dynamics into a green tech powerhouse. Me rising through the ranks to stand beside him. "We're rewriting the script, he'd say, pulling me close under the covers, his breath warm against my neck. No more playing second fiddle. But Victoria, she was the wild card, the viper in the garden. Spoiled and sharp as a stiletto, she idolized her father and resented anyone who dared eclipse her spotlight. She'd breeze into the office like she owned it, which, in a way, she did, flirting shamelessly with Leo to provoke him, needling me with backhanded compliments about my exotic accent. I caught her watching us once, during a Harrington family gala at the plaza. Leo and I had slipped away to the balcony for a moment's peace. His hand on my waist, our foreheads touching as fireworks burst over the East River. She was there in the shadows, glass of champagne in hand, her eyes narrowing like she'd just uncovered buried treasure or a weapon. The accusation came like a thunderclap on a sweltering July afternoon. I'd been with Harrington Dynamics for 2 years by then, promoted to junior project manager, my name on memos alongside Leo's. Victoria had been angling for a role in operations, but Harlan shot her down, praising my fresh perspective instead. That night, as the team wrapped a high-stakes merger pitch, she cornered me in the executive washroom. "You think you're so clever, don't you, Emilio? Seducing my brother, whispering in Daddy's ear. But I know your type, climbing ladders on your back." I laughed it off, heart racing. "Victoria, it's not like that. Leo and I, we're real." Her smile turned feral. "Real? You'll ruin him, and I'll make sure you never touch this family again." The next morning, hell broke loose. Harlan stormed into my office, face thunderous, Victoria trailing like a shadow. "Emilio, we've discovered discrepancies in the merger funds. $50,000 rerouted to an offshore account. Your name on the transfers." My stomach dropped. I hadn't touched a dime. I'd been busting my ass to keep that deal afloat. But there it was on his tablet. Forged emails, timestamps aligning with my login, IP traces leading back to my workstation. "It wasn't me," I stammered, voice cracking as Leo burst in behind them, horror etching his features. "Emilio? Tell me this isn't true." Victoria hovered, feigning concern, her hand on Harlan's arm. "Daddy, I found it myself. He must have thought we wouldn't notice." The boardroom inquest was a blur of accusations and averted eyes. Leo tried to intervene. "This doesn't add up, Dad. Emilio's loyal. You know that." But Victoria's tears sealed it. "He's using you, Leo, to get ahead. I saw the emails. Lies, all of it, but in that world of privilege and presumption, my word was dust against the Harrington name. Harlan fired me on the spot, blackballing me across Wall Street. Get out, Rivera, and stay away from my son." I left with a cardboard box of my life, framed photos of Leo and me hidden in a diner booth, a dog-eared copy of his mother's poetry. The streets of Midtown swallowed me whole. Bounce checks, eviction notices, nights crashing on friends' couches while job apps vanished into the void. Leo called once, voice breaking. "I believe you. Fight this. I'll help." But Harlan cut him off, shipping him to a rehab stint in the Hamptons. Code for drying out the distraction. Our last words, "I love you. Don't let them win." Then silence. Years ground me down, then rebuilt me sharper. I scraped by as a freelance consultant in Brooklyn, coding apps for startups, teaching night classes at Lehman College on project ethics. Bitterness festered, but so did resolve. I documented everything, saved every email, mirrored servers before they wiped my access. And I watched from afar as Victoria ascended, wedding Leo's best friend in a society splash to secure the line, while Leo buried himself in boardroom battles, his sketches gathering dust. Fate, that cruel jester, looped back 5 years later. I clawed my way to VP at a rival firm, EcoForge, pioneering the solar grids Leo once dreamed of. Our paths crossed at Tech Summit in San Francisco, him keynoting on sustainable mergers, me moderating a panel on corporate accountability. Backstage, our eyes locked across the green room. "Emilio," he breathed, crossing the space in 3 strides, pulling me into a hug that smelled of cedar and regret. "You look incredible, like you were always meant for this." We talked for hours that night, over bourbon in a dimly lit lounge overlooking the bay. He confessed the fractures. Victoria's sham marriage crumbling, Harlan's health failing from a stroke, the empire teetering on scandals. "I never stopped loving you," Leo said, his hand covering mine, thumb tracing old scars. "I searched for you, but you vanished." I told him everything. The forgeries I'd suspected, the digital trail I'd pieced together in sleepless nights. His face hardened. "She did this to protect the family image." "Goj, I mi so sorry." The climax hit back in New York, 3 months later, when Harlan summoned a family summit to anoint Victoria as successor. Leo and I had rekindled quietly. Dinners in hidden speakeasies, weekends in the Catskills where he'd finally let me see the man beneath the armor. But exposure meant war. "Do it," he urged one stormy evening in his loft, rain lashing the windows like accusations. "For us, for the truth." I walked into that boardroom a ghost reborn. Harlan, frail in his wheelchair, Victoria preening at his side in a power suit that screamed entitlement. The room fell silent as I laid it out. The laptop humming to life, emails unredacted, Metadata exposing Victoria's late-night hacks from her penthouse IP. You framed me, I said, voice steady as steel, locking eyes with her. To bury a love you couldn't control. To keep your brother's puppet strings in family hands. Chaos erupted. Victoria lunged for the device. This is fabricated. But Leo stepped forward, voice like gravel. No, Vic. I verified it myself. You broke us. For what? A throne built on lies. Harlan's gasp echoed as the truth sank in, his empire's facade cracking. Victoria crumpled, sobbing not for remorse but ruin, whispering, I did it for us, Daddy. He was poison. In the fallout, Harlan confessed his own blindness. Years of favoring blood over merit, ignoring the heart beating in his son's sketches. He stepped down, naming Leo interim CEO with a mandate for change. Victoria fled to Europe, her inheritance revoked, a cautionary tale whispered in society columns. Me? I didn't gloat. Instead, as the dust settled, Leo and I stood on the high line at dawn, the city awakening below us. You exposed more than her lies, he said, slipping a simple band onto my finger, a promise forged in fire. You exposed me to myself. No more hiding. We kissed as the sun crested, slow and sure, the Hudson glittering like absolution. It wasn't a fairy tale. Scars don't vanish. But in that American grind of reinvention and raw edges, we built something human, flawed, fierce, ours. Wealth couldn't buy it, betrayal couldn't break it. Love, it turned out, was the real empire, and we just claimed the throne.